We all have a story to tell. Some are just beginning, others have been unfolding for years. Welcome to the Shaman Stories podcast. Each week, I sit down with guests to explore their journeys into spirit, the challenges, awakenings, and the moments that shaped who they are today. So take a breath, settle in, and join me as we uncover the stories that lead us back to our true selves. All right, welcome everybody. Today's guest, we have Craig Merriweather with us. He's a clinical hypnotherapist, and he's also the founder of Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy. And so he works with people on the subconscious level, looking at past lives, past life regression, and spiritual hypnotherapy. Welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, Jeremy, thank you so much. Yeah, it's going to be a fun conversation because I know you've experienced some of this work yourself and work with people in this kind of spiritual healing realm. So yeah, it'll be fun.
So I guess before we start, is there anything else that I might have missed in your bio that maybe people need to know, or did I kind of cover?
Yeah, you covered it. I mean, we could spend, the entire conversation just talking about hypnotherapy in and of itself, let alone the more spiritual aspect of it, of like past life regressions and things. But I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this work was because of its healing aspect in the spiritual realm. Now, there's all sorts of different kinds of therapy. It's sort of like exercise. Mm-hmm. It's not just going to the gym and lifting weights. You can go to spin class, you can go to CrossFit, you can go to yoga. There's all sorts of things. You just walk out in nature, hike, run. There's all sorts of ways to create physical health. So, and in and of itself, one is not better than the other, maybe just due to your body type and what is going on with your health. But there's also with the spiritual healing too. Yes, there's several methods in which you can achieve spiritual cleansing, healing, all sorts, spiritual renewal, rejuvenation, that kind of thing. What attracted me to hypnotherapy was on my own work that I did with myself due to my own just depression and anxiety I was struggling with as a teenager and then in my 20s, and a lot of the personal growth I was researching. And now we're talking like the 80s and the 90s. So this was really before the internet. I mean, what's the internet? The mid to late 90s with our 14.4 modems and 12 hours to download a picture. And even before the SSRI drugs like Prozac and things, those didn't come out till late 90s either. So a lot of stuff I was trying was personal growth, personal development, and some of those books and lectures you might run into or workshops or things, they would mention hypnotherapy as a way of accessing that subconscious part of mind, that unconscious mind behind the veil where you may be holding on to hurt and pain. And so in using it in my own life, I found healing, and that kind of combined with my interest in the spiritual life, in the spiritual realm, especially back in the day, you didn't have easy access to ayahuasca or some of those other methods. And I was certainly nervous in the 90s as a young man, just with kind of my own mental health issues and things that I was struggling with doing LSD and things like that. I lived in Santa Cruz, so certainly it was possible to get it in the 90s, but it just didn't feel right, didn't feel comfortable to me. I wanted a more, I don't know if organic or natural is a right way of saying that, but wanted to use my own abilities to access that spiritual realm. And hypnotherapy fit nicely into that. And I went to a school, the Hypnotherapy Academy of America. It's an extraordinary school, very intensive education, 500 hours of in-person education. And you learn to help people with trauma, with maybe childhood issues. Maybe they've gone through issues as a child that have created complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or you're just dealing as an adult with some anxiety or anger over whatever it may be. you can help them with these techniques under the umbrella of hypnotherapy to release that hurt and that pain and that anger and trauma. You learn that first. Then you learn medical hypnosis, dealing with physical pain and healing acceleration, boosting your immune system, that kind of stuff. And then the last 100 hours is past life regression and the spiritual work. And so you learn, over the course of, well, the entirety of the 500 hours is over 2.5 months, so 10 weeks. So it's 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. This isn't some history class at university, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. This is 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Then you're working, you have study groups and hanging out with people and practicing with each other. And so it's this extraordinary learning environment of which you build upon learning how to help people heal in all sorts of different ways, emotionally, mentally, physically even. And then you move into the more spiritual realm of that. After you've learned and worked with people in that manner, then you're learning the spiritual stuff. And so hypnotherapy is a wonderful methodology, techniques, tools, however you want to describe it, to help people not only with the issues of maybe this current life, but maybe any sort of issues that may be connecting them to a past life. Now, this, of course, doesn't just have to be about healing or anything. Certainly, there's an aspect of discovery and the insights you can gain, and hey, well, just for fun, not unlike maybe discovering your genealogy for fun. And it can be quite interesting just researching where your family has come from, who your family members have been beyond maybe great-great-grandparents and great-great-great-grandparents. But it's also the aspect you start digging, you might find some things that are unsettling about maybe what your family has done in the past. And so that's where, wanting to work with somebody who is trained in this work, that they know what they're doing, that they're not just, they took some video courses and now call themselves a past life regressionist. Yeah, maybe they can get you to that state, but what happens if the intensity arrives or something unsettling arrives? And so I'm not even sure if I've answered your question or not, but other than what I do and what I studied to become a hypnotherapist was basically based around healing my own hurt and pain, and then discovering that you can use these techniques to access that higher realm, maybe that super conscious level of mind, that higher self, and create even deeper healing on a spiritual basis.
No, that works perfect. And I agree 100% because we were talking before we started recording, but I kind of do the same thing. I mean, I don't call it hypnotherapy. I do journey work with people. And so I'll either take them on a journey or I'll do a journey for them and I'll bring back soul parts. So whenever we have we're traumatized or something happens in a past life or this life, parts of our soul might break off, fragment, and just kind of go hide.
Yeah.
Then I'll go down and I'll see the original wounding that happened, bring back the soul part, and then help them have a conversation with it and see what's going on. Because I find sometimes, people with soul loss, for example, they might be anxious, they might have anxiety or depression, and they can't find a cause for it. It's why am I depressed? I have everything I want. My life has been perfect. I have the perfect family. I have kids. I have money. Everything I have is there, but they feel like something is missing. And it's usually like a part of them is missing from a past life and it's bringing it back.
Yeah. 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 And it's interesting what you just described, because in and of itself, kind of what I described a few minutes ago, hypnotherapy is kind of this umbrella of different techniques by moving you into a more relaxed state of mind and body, basically just kind of the alpha brainwave state, literally the biology in just 20 seconds. The basic biology of it is just slowing down how fast your brain is operating, moving from operating at 18, 20 cycles per second in the beta brainwave state down to 12 cycles per second. Now, it's just a daydreamy state. If you've been at work and your mind drifts off, maybe you're in a meeting at work and your mind floats off, drifts off, start thinking about the weekend and all the things you got to get done, the fun you're going to have with your friends, or maybe remember back in high school math class, your mind just drifts off. That's the alpha brainwave state. And in and of itself, that's the state of hypnosis. Everybody can do this because everybody at one point or another has kind of gotten bored and let their mind drift off and wandered away. And so a lot of what you even just described in just a couple of minutes of the work you do, it could basically be described as hypnotherapy, putting people in a state of relaxed mind and body, and then whether you're kind of doing helping them with the work yourself or just having them guide them through it is sort of hypnosis sounding like.
Yeah, I guess it could be for sure.
Yeah.
Use drum tracks, get them out of that normal state, put them into theta.
Yeah.
And they can get into, like the dream time. They can do the work themselves. And it's something we all have the ability to do. We've just forgotten how.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, there's, especially in the more academic world, there's a notion that there is a certain percentage of people who can't do this. And I disagree wholeheartedly because, again, everybody can have their mind drift out. That's the whole point of meditation, right? Is Zen meditation or transcendental meditation is to keep your mind in this present moment. Return to the breath. Return to this mantra. Return to this next step. If you're doing walking meditation, it's about being in the present moment, which has all sorts of wonderful mental, emotional, and spiritual health effects. But that's so difficult often at times because the mind wants to float away and drift off. That's the whole point of meditation, to keep your mind in the present moment because it's so difficult to do. And even longtime meditators say, "Hey, how did your half-hour meditation go today?" It's like, my mind, I'm just so many things going on in life, and my parents are coming this weekend, and it's like my mind kept drifting off. Yeah, that's what it does. Well, that's hypnosis. That's hypnotherapy. All we do is help guide it into that daydreamy state. Watching TV puts it in the alpha brainwave state. Everybody can do this. I was at I don't know if you should say, why not? Brian Weiss retreat last year. And of course, he's author of Many Lives, Many Masters. That might have been the first book to really usher in the modern day past life regression movement. Of course, Dolores Cannon had been out there and other people. Bridie Murphy book and all those things from the 50s and 60s and Dolores Cannon. But I think the real beginning of this modern day past life regression movement started with the academics. Dr. Brian Weiss has an MD from Yale, a psychiatrist, has a chemistry degree from Columbia. Dr. Michael Newton, who released Journey of Souls in 1992. Many Lives, Many Masters came out in 1988. And it was with the more academic side of this. I think people really got interested because it didn't have that, if you'll excuse the phrase, the woo-woo factor to it, with the robes and the hats, and which is great. It's wonderful and fine. But it also turns off some people. Whereas here's these academics in their suits and ties and their glasses talking in a more academic way about this spiritual work. And so I think it helped people move into this because it wasn't outside of their realm of understanding, but there's also an aspect of the academic world that says 10-20% of the people can't do this. And I don't understand that mentality, because even Brian Weiss, finally got to cross this off my bucket list. I went to a retreat with him last summer. And he said that like at the beginning, it's like, 20% of you won't experience this. And I'm like, well, isn't that hypnotizing people to not experience it? It's kind of one of those confusing things. I have people come to me and say, well, I can't be hypnotized. I've tried it before, but I know I can't be hypnotized, and so it never works. I'm like, so let me get this straight. You're telling yourself over and over again you can't be hypnotized, and then you try to work with a hypnotherapist. He can't move you into this hypnosis state, and then you say, see, I can't be hypnotized. It's that weird brain twist of like, yeah, but you're hypnotizing yourself not to be hypnotized. Because this isn't taking away control from people. It's offering back control. Because in a sense, if somebody's struggling with anxiety or anger or maybe a traumatic event in their lives, they're already out of control. Their nervous system is on high alert and they can't turn it off. And I'll tell you, hypnotherapy, maybe you have this experience too, Jeremy, we're usually not on the top of the list.
No.
It's the last resort. It's the last hope. I saw a podcast with Jeremy. I saw an interview with him. I saw an interview with Craig or something. It's like, I read Brian Rice's book. Maybe it's past life. I don't know. Maybe I'll try this. Maybe I'll try hypnotherapy. And so usually bottom of the list after years and years of talk therapy or seeing the doctors or physical therapy or whatever it is. And so if you're coming to this work, I think not only obviously there's the calling from your intuition or your higher self, however you want to say it, and you can do it because it's calling to you. Now, if you're not feeling comfortable with the person, if that person maybe isn't trained well, there may be some rapport issues and you're not feeling comfortable. Maybe you're nervous about the actual work or what you may see. If that person you're working with doesn't catch that from what you're saying, or maybe you didn't have a consultation call or anything, if they can't help you remove the blocks of maybe the fear of what you may see because you've read books about how intense other people's experiences have been, they may be hesitating from wanting to do it. But that's sort of like, saying to somebody, well, I can't walk around in a swimming pool. It's like, well, yeah, you can. You just don't want to get into the swimming pool. You can't say 20% of the people can't walk around the swimming pool. It's like, well, yeah, you can. If you're walking around on solid ground, then you can get into a swimming pool and wander around too. But you just have to get into the pool. And same with this, is you can do it. You just have to get into the pool. And what I found fascinating about being at that workshop was like, well, you just kind of hypnotized people not to have an experience. Because people, you probably have experienced this, Jeremy, people have obviously different ways of experiencing this work. And, if you ever had the experience, anybody listening is like, somebody says, I want you to experience wandering around on a beautiful beach, on a beautiful island and feeling relaxed. Well, are you actually sensing yourself wandering around a beach like it's a real 3D experience, like you're actually there? Are you seeing yourself like it's a movie? Like, oh yeah, I see myself wandering around. Is it just kind of like a knowing, okay, I guess a beach, yeah. Do you feel more like the breeze? Do you hear people are going to experience this in different ways. They're all valid and equally worthy. It's just, you're going to experience it differently. And some people may have the experience of just sensing the information or knowing, like claircognizant, knowing the information, not clairvoyance, not clairaudient, but claircognizant. They just know it. It's just downloaded to them. That's still worthy and valuable. Yeah. It's just because they read it in the books, like, well, no, it's supposed to be like this. No, that's just one person's experience. And it may also be that it's going to take a moment for the brain to warm up to this information. And one of the ways I like to explain it is that sort of like this 5D information, this like all this 5D information coming through a fire hose, this digital 5D information through a fire hose is again funneled into this 3D analog brain. And we have to translate it. And it may need a moment to warm up or to accommodate this information or figure out how to translate it into a way we'll understand it. And one of the wonderful examples I like to give is that movie Interstellar. If anybody saw it with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, the space movie. And not to give anything away, not to give any spoilers or anything, but I mean, if you haven't seen it, you're probably not going to see it. But it's a great movie. I've seen it 3 or 4 times. It's utterly fascinating, utterly amazing. But at the very end, and again, not trying to give anything away, but those who have seen it will understand that he's trapped in the tesseract of that 5D universe. And he's trying to communicate to the 3D world of Earth. And he can't just make a phone call. He can't send a fax. He can't, just kind of holler through. He has to do other ways of communicating, and so he's pushing the books off the bookshelf. He's making the dust in the floor with the light. He's the Morse code on the watch.
Mhm.
He's in this 5D world, and it's really very difficult to communicate to the 3D world because they're so different. And same with this. It's we're pulling in this information from the spirit realm, and this analog 3D brain of ours has to figure out a way to translate so we'll understand. And so it may take a moment for that to warm up. If anybody remembers those old television sets we used to have, you turn it on, it may take a moment. It has that one little white dot until it finally goes, doo, and you get the picture because the tubes warm up or whatever the thing was with that back in the 70s. And your brain may be doing that too. Or I've had experiences with people where it's like, I don't see anything. It's just all dark. And this isn't working. It's like, hey, you find out they're blind. And so we have to have another different kind of way of experiencing this because now you find out they're blind. I had one myself where it was like this dark, it's like black, it's like, I don't know what this is, what's going on. And finally I realized I was in a cave and not just like in kind of having a fire and there's the world and everything. No, I was way back in a cave where it's full on dark, no sunlight. And I had to exit the cave. Now I don't know if that was a metaphor, if I really was in a cave, or that's just the way the symbolism and metaphoric way it had to open up to me so I can explore my past life of walking out of the cave and into the sunlight of this past life. But I think the issue is that when somebody's telling you, or you get the impression from maybe a past experience that I don't do it very well, or I can't do it, or I hear 20% of people can't do it, and my first experience in the first 30 seconds wasn't very great, so therefore I must not be able to do it. It's like, I don't believe that. I think if you're listening to a podcast like this, if you're following somebody like Jeremy and listening to his various episodes and maybe even working with Jeremy or doing past life regression or interested in it, reading Brian Weiss or Dolores Cannon or whoever, I think you'd be able to do this work very, very well. And again, may be different than the way you read about it in Brian Weiss or Michael Newton or whoever. But we all have the capability and capacity to understand this work, but the capability of doing the work. And that's why I like this kind of work. Certainly there's ways of accessing past life regression, going to a medium or psychic or somebody like that, who past life reader who will tell you, kind of connect with you and kind of connect with your Akashic records or book of your life or whatever, and kind of tell you the past lives you've experienced. There's certainly that aspect of this work, but what I like and what I feel is important is that you experience it yourself. And again, it'd be just like, well, I could tell you about going to France and seeing the Eiffel Tower and drinking coffee at a little cafe and walking around the Seine and seeing the Louvre and all this stuff. I can tell you about that and even show you photos of it. But to go there and actually experience it, that's something quite remarkable and amazing. And so with this work, especially the deeper healing, if I'm just telling you, or not me, because I don't do that kind of work, but like a past life reader is telling you about your lives, where's the healing coming from?
Right.
I'm sure you've experienced that. You just can't look at, connect with somebody and just pull out your magic wand. You have to connect with them and have them be part of that experience in some way.
Yeah, it always works better when they're involved. And no, I agree with what you're saying with the census and what you see, what you don't see, what you know. It's the same when I'm teaching somebody how to journey, because it's always the same thing. It's like, oh, am I making it up? Is this really real? Am I actually seeing this? I'm not seeing anything, but I'm hearing something. Or I don't see anything or hear anything, but I just kind of know what's going on. And it's like, okay, just keep going with that.
Yeah, keep going.
Just let it keep happening and let it unfold. And eventually, are you making some of it up? I like to think our brain's interpreting some things in a way that we can understand, but for the most part, I've come back with, use this plant to cure this, or use this stone to help with that. And I don't know anything about these things. And I'm Googling it till I find what I saw. And then I'm checking the properties of it, and it's exactly what I need or what I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the issue is for people is, yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
skepticism and doubt. And I get that. I mean, I'm skeptical. I have my doubt. That's why I wrote my own book, Past Lives Guidebook, because of my own skepticism and wanting to understand more about the science behind all this. Because in and of itself, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung and Milton Erickson and Lauren Fritz Perls, they were all talking about how the subconscious mind speaks to you in symbolism and metaphor and imagination and storytelling and allegory. And you can speak back to the subconscious mind in symbolism and metaphor and using your imagination. And so when you're getting some of this information, it's like, well, how do you know that it's not a conjuring, a construct of the subconscious mind for that healing? How do you know it's actual past life? And unless you're getting some extraordinarily detailed information, uh, like about the street the house is on and the house number and all this kind of stuff, who the neighbors are and what their names are. I mean, unless you're getting extraordinarily detailed information like that, I don't know that you can prove it. And like when I take people up into that soul world and that soul state, Michael Newton talks about that in his books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. We always go to the healing place. You want to disconnect from any sort of negativity, from any sort of past lives, known or unknown. And people experience this healing place and the healing in different ways. It may be a healing with energy or light or water, or maybe there's healing beings with futuristic looking glowing rods or something. Now, I'm going to guess, I'm going to put big money down that there isn't water in the soul state. I'm just going to guess that. So this is more of a metaphoric representation of the healing that is happening.
Yeah.
And so that's where it gets a little mind twisty. It's like, well, okay, well, you can move your higher self and connect with your soul up in the soul world, but your brain, this 3D brain, still has to translate that information somehow. And it may translate it as water as a light or glowing rods or cords you have to pull out physically. That doesn't mean the healing is not true.
Mm.
Or is not happening. It's just that this 3D brain of ours has to create a symbolic way of understanding, because it may be impossible. Sort of like people who have near-death experiences and they see these colors that they've never seen before. How do you describe a color you've never seen before? It's purplish brown, or I don't know. How would you ever do that?
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like that. Well, how do you describe this energetic healing or the soul healing that's happening? Well, it's sort of like water mixed with an energy, and it's like, okay, but oops, I'm sorry, I just knocked my mic. That's just the only way we're able to experience it on Earth in terms of trying to understand with our mind. Now, I believe 99.999% that we are coming back here again and again and again for learning, for growth, and it may take multiple lives to learn a specific topic, maybe love or compassion. I think that would be huge subjects and topics that would take multiple lives to learn, patterns with other, maybe people in your soul family, your soul group. I think there's enough evidence out there, even with the government research into remote viewing, not to turn this into a conspiracy theory podcast, but and I write about that in the book too, a whole big huge chapter about remote viewing, because what the government did during the 70s and 80s, and I'm going to again put big money down that they're still doing that research work. They just call it something else because they got found out because of the Freedom of Information Act, and everybody kind of made fun of them for doing this work. But they were getting real results for 25 years. Mm-hmm. They're getting real results, spending millions of dollars, which they wouldn't have done if it didn't work. They would have spent $500 in 2 months and they would have moved on. But the Soviet Union back in the day, in the late 60s, early 70s, CIA found out that they're doing experiments in ESP and psychic, working with psychics, and they were creating psychic warfare. What if you could move the mind to the White House and look on the Oval Office? What if you could move your mind into the Pentagon and see what the war plans are, or where troop movements were going? And so the CIA wanted to do the same kind of research, and they got amazing results. Not only proving that consciousness is non-local, meaning it's not imprisoned within the skull of ours, housed within the brain, but you can move consciousness across location. You can move it to the other side of the world and look underground. And I don't want to go into a whole that because that's a whole 10-hour conversation right there. But and there's many resources out there about remote viewing on documentaries on YouTube and books and chapter in my book and all that. But what they found is not only can you move consciousness to different locations around the earth and even space, outer space, but you can move consciousness forward and backwards in time. And they prove that again and again. And so there's this William James quote. He's one of the pioneers of modern psychotherapy. And he said that to prove that all crows are not black, you only need one white crow. And I think there's enough evidence out there. I mean, just with the remote viewing experiments, let alone the research that Brian Weiss did and Michael Newton and Ian Stevenson's with reincarnation. I think there's enough evidence out there to have, thousands of white crows. And so again, and that's a big part of my book, not to keep going back to that, but the whole point of my book was to look at time and memory and consciousness. And is this a computer simulation? What about holographic universe theory? And what about the multiverse and remote viewing? And put all these things together, including the history of past lives and reincarnation, starting with Neanderthal burial sites. And was there any evidence to suggest they had any sort of concept of life after death? And move throughout time. And just after reading all this research and putting all the puzzle pieces together, getting to the end of the book, and say, I don't see how you can say there can be any other way. Then we seem to be coming back here again and again for our own learning and growth. Now, having said that, again, believing 99.999% that this is happening, I can't prove one way or another that the actual experience you're having in a past life regression session is quote unquote real, or a construct of your subconscious mind to create that healing. Mm-hmm. So really what it comes down to is the healing that you'll achieve and or the insights, the discoveries you're going to make that to help you move forward in life. Now, you may have been in so much pain over the years and unable to find a way of releasing and letting go in a safe way until maybe you read Brian Weiss or you read Dolores Cannon or somebody else. And you thought, oh, past life regression. Now, again, it may just be finally the subconscious mind has found a way to release that hurt and pain. And they're going to use the context of a past life regression moving up into the spirit world. Even if I could prove somehow that was a construct of your subconscious mind for healing, that doesn't mean that past lives aren't real and that this being able to move up into spirit world is real. It just means the experience you had in that moment or in that session, I guess, was more of a metaphoric, symbolic healing your subconscious mind needed for you to finally drop that tension, that trauma, and that hurt and that pain.
Yeah, and I guess, in a long scheme of things, it doesn't matter if we can prove it or disprove it. It's been in our, trying to think of the right way, because when we used to be in more tribal situations before we got to where we're at now, every society had some version of a medicine man, medicine woman, a shaman, whatever they wanted to call it for their area. Everyone has a different term for it. Yeah. But there's so many stories after stories about how when a baby was born, the shaman, the medicine person would do a soul retrieval on that child right when it was born, to help it be balanced for the next life. And it's something that we just stopped doing. We got reborn again into different cultures that don't do that. And then more and more time went by. And now we have, at least from the shamanic perspective, we have lots of different little bits of soul loss everywhere. But all of that
Yeah.
comes from past lives.
Yeah.
So to me, it's all connected. It's how do you get there? That doesn't matter as long as you can find a way, either, through someone like yourself, through someone like me,
Mhm.
and you find the answer you're looking for and you get the healing. To me, that's awesome. Like
Yeah.
it's the same process, just a different way of doing it, but it's the same thing. It
Yeah.
sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, and there's not, one way I think is better than the other. I think that's where your intuition comes in.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of ways to travel, you know, plane, train, automobile, boat, in a box with a box. There's all sorts of ways of doing it. Walking, just walking across, the beautiful countryside. There are all sorts of ways of traveling, bicycle. So the goal is just like to get from here to there, and there's many ways of doing it. All are valid, and it just may be a little bit different. And somebody may say, "I just want to get there quick." Yeah, okay, get it on an airplane, or I want the leisurely uh, uh, experience of being on a cruise ship or a boat or something. Let alone maybe just I feel like walking. There's those wonderful. I've always wanted to do one of these is those walking tours of like especially like New England in the United States. It's all close enough that you can get to one wonderful bed and breakfast to the next, and you just kind of walk. You do that a lot in places in Europe. You can do that. And what's that? Oh, now it's lost me. There's a in Spain. You walk to the cathedral. What is that called? I'm going to remember once we're done. Um, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like there's lots of different ways of getting to somewhere. And now that you could drive to there, you could ride your bicycle, you could skateboard, roller skate. There's all sorts of ways of doing it. All are equally valid, depending on what it is you're looking for. So
And so when you're working with clients, do you find that just seeing their past life is enough for them to get healing generally, or do you still have to take them on? Because you mentioned the world of souls, I think is what you said.
yeah, yeah, spirit world or yeah, Michael Newton calls it life between lives. Um, and it just kind of depends again what the person is looking for, um, and what they want to experience in terms of if there's healing, like they come with some sort of issue of I just have all this anger. I've done all the talk therapy and I've worked on myself and I was just so angry. And I read Brian Weiss or I read your book, Craig, and I just feel like it's connected to a past life. My intuition is telling me that I want to do a session. Or somebody says, oh, I'm just curious. Always wanted to try it. I saw your website or something. But in terms of where the healing happens, generally, it happens up in that soul world.
Okay.
And so what's going to happen, and I kind of follow the Michael Newton protocol of doing this work, is that you experience a past life. Now, of course, if you live to be 103 years old in that past life, we can't go through every hour, every day of that 103 years, of course, but we can move through like maybe 4 or 5 significant events in that life. So let's say the focus is go back to the past life that is the karmic cause of all this anger you're experiencing. Go back to the past life that is influencing your current life. Go back to past life. There are all sorts of ways of saying, depending on what you want to look at. We're going to establish the scene where you are, sort of like whether the metaphor is opening the door to the past life or crossing the bridge to the past life or up the staircase to the past life, whatever it may be, going through the archway. And you're going to discover the past life, where you are, the time period, in that particular scene, how old you are, male, female, are you with anybody? Are you on your own? Are you outside, inside? And you establish the scene, what is happening, what's going on. And then I want that to fade. I'm going to count to 3. And you're going to move to the next significant event, whether you're younger, maybe you'll go backwards. You're older, maybe it's around the same age. 1, 2, 3, go. Now tell me about this next significant event. Because working one-on-one, we're having a conversation. You're in this trance state. You're in this kind of altered state of consciousness of hypnosis, connected to your higher self, receiving this information, but you're narrating it. Not only for, so I can help guide and facilitate and understand where any healing might need to be just by hearing what's going on or what you're saying. But it's also for the recording, so you can listen to it later in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Typically, past life regression sessions are around 3 hours. I do a shorter session, like a 90-minute version. It's the same exact thing. It's just one's 90 minutes, one's 3 hours. So you're going to have a longer experience. But it's sort of like remembering a 3-hour movie. See one of those Martin Scorsese movies or Marvel movie or something. And it's like, 3.5 hours. You saw the movie. You're consciously, unless you fell asleep, you've consciously aware of the movie, but just maybe in a month or two, you might not remember the entirety of this 3-hour story. Well, same with this. There's enough life going on and busyness of life that maybe in a few months, you're not going to remember the entirety of that 3-hour experience. Well, that's where the recording comes in and the transcript that I send to you afterwards. You can just breeze through the transcript, even word search for purpose or healing or somebody's name or whatever. And these healing or the understanding or the discovery that you need may happen within the past life. Maybe just understanding where the anger came from, or where the blocks around wealth or abundance came from, or feelings around family or love or whatever it may be. Maybe understanding that, seeing where it came from is enough to let it go and release it. But we always get to the last day in that life, maybe after experiencing 4 or 5 significant events throughout that entirety of that life, but we're always going to get to the last day and the final moments in that life. And what are you thinking, feeling in those last moments of that past life that may kind of connect you to this current life? Again, what are your feelings about family, love? Is life hard or easy? Is love hard or easy? And so you move out of that body, and that's an experience too. And explain to me what that experience is like for you. Is it uncomfortable? Is it joyful? Is it light? Is it heavy? What does it feel like for the soul to move out of the body? And then as you move up towards the gateway to spirit world, I call it spirit world or the soul realm or life between lives, all sorts of different ways of saying it. Who greets you at the gateway to spirit? Does your guide come to greet you? Is it part of your soul family, the entirety of your soul family? Other spirit beings? Where do you go first? And so there are several places to go to in spirit world where you may want to recharge or renew or just connect with your soul family, your soul mates. Maybe have some sort of orientation with your soul guide to see how you're doing. But we always go to the healing place or the healing space. And in and of itself, I help guide people there, but I don't tell them what it looks like.
Okay.
There is no time, there is no space in the soul world as we know it, of course, here on earth. So allow yourself to go to that healing space now. 1, 2, 3, be there now. Tell me what it looks like. Who is there with you? Is your spirit guide with you? Are there other healing beings with you? Are you there on your own? How does this healing happen? And then I give them some privacy to have their healing experience. Once that's over, that may be 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. People will take the time they need to heal. Maybe it's pulling out of cords or something else. But then we always go to the current life selection room. Again, so kind of a way of Michael Newton describes it in his books. And this is where this particular life, specifically here in the 2000s, was selected. Why? Why this role? Why this body? Why you live where you live? The people in your life? What kind of information can you get about your purpose, your mission, your ultimate goals? Any pain maybe that you've experienced in your life? Can you gain any understanding behind that? Why your mother in this uh, persona? What's your mother going to teach you because she is the way she is? Who's playing your mother? Can you get that information? Do you recognize your mother as maybe somebody in that past life you just experienced? Your father, why is your father the way he is? What are you going to learn? How are you going to be able to develop as a soul because your father is the way he is? You know, siblings, friends, divorces, pain and hurt you've gone through. Is there any understanding that can come while up in soul world around that? And again, that can also provide some healing and some ways of processing that. And again, I don't want to say it's like it was your fault because you chose that and all this, but there's also an aspect of it. It's like, well, if they're, actors doing a play and they're handing out scripts and say, okay, who wants to play the role of this person? Says, oh, I'll do that. It's like, well, this is the role you're going to play because we have to get these characters from Act 1 to Act 3, And so again, it can be a bit of a mind twist to like think, well, did you choose this? Is there a soul contract or a soul agreement with other souls who may be playing roles in your life? And are you here to support other people? Are you here to encourage other people? Are they here to support you? Is it all one big kind of learning experience you're all going, or are you all focused on one soul to help them out this time around? There's a lot of different components happening. And, a lot of this work is coming from Michael Newton, his books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls specifically. And just really quickly, Michael Newton, he passed away in 2011, I believe. By 1969, as a psychotherapist, Michael Newton was working with a patient of his and feeling that he needed to be regressed back to childhood to help resolve some hurt and some pain and some trauma. They did some hypnotherapy, going to regress him back to childhood to resolve that hurt and pain. Well, the guy kept going. And he went past childhood, he went past being a newborn, he went past being in utero, and he went back up into soul world or soul state or spirit world or life between lives, whatever you want to call it. And as a soul, he created the healing he needed to create in terms of releasing and resolving the hurt and pain he was going through. And so this utterly fascinated Michael Newton. And he wondered if other people had the capability of doing that kind of work, that deep kind of spiritual work. And could he, as a therapist, get people back to that state? Because in and of itself, it was kind of accidental. He wasn't doing it on purpose. So could he do it on purpose and get people back to that soul state? So during the early 70s, he started working with people, seeing if they could access this state. Could he develop some sort of protocol which helped people get to that state? And he did. And as he worked with people, they are having similar experiences to each other. Now, this is 1970s. There's no internet. There's no cell phones. There's no WhatsApp. There's no texting. These people didn't know each other from different backgrounds and all walks of life and age groups and from different parts of the country, maybe different parts of the world. And yet they are having similar experiences to each other of the healing space, of connecting with their soul group, of the current life viewing room, of the spiritual life, all these different things. And he worked with thousands of people over the 1970s and 1980s, 365 days a year. He's working with thousands of people over 2 decades, 20 years. And in 1992, he released a first book, Journey of Souls. And then he did another decade's worth of research, working thousands of people. And in 2001, 2002, he released Destiny of Souls, which is twice as big as Journey of Souls. And this is the information in the book. What is soul world like? And it was his protocols and his research and then learning his techniques that kind of helped me expand how I work with this. Because I was doing, hour and a half sessions because that's how I was trained at the Hypnotherapy Academy. They just kept getting longer. And I kept thinking, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Or I don't know, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. And then I realized, Michael Newton's doing 3.5 hour long sessions. That's why it's like, because you just keep asking more and more questions because it's so fascinating. And so the more focus I do in the work I do is the Michael Newton protocols. Because again, you can get this is a way long answer to a short question you asked about 3 hours ago. In terms of the healing work, yes, you can get healing and resolution just by understanding and discovering a past life. But what I found typically is it's moving up into that soul world and releasing that past life, reconnecting with soul family, and having that healing experience, however it manifests to you in your subconscious mind or your mind to mind or whatever. That's where the healing happens. Mm-hmm. In fact, even physical healing. I opened up my book with this line that I received an email from somebody about 3 or 4 days after their past life regression. I checked in with them. I check in with people, see how they're doing, if there's any insights that's come from their experience after the fact, and if they have any questions. And she wrote back, 20 years of chronic hip pain is now gone. And I didn't know she had hip pain. That's not what we were working on. She just lived with it. She'd been to the doctor. She's had the x-rays, the MRIs, and the physical therapy and all that stuff. And she just, there's nothing wrong with her hip, but she just has this chronic hip pain and she just lives with it. She just kind of, this is just what it is. We were working on something entirely different, had nothing to do with hip pain, explored the past life, discovered the past life, had that experience, move up into the soul world, having that experience. Let's move to the healing space. And she's doing the healing work she needs to do. I'm encouraging and supporting her. And one aspect I will offer people is like, notice if there's any cords attached to you, negative cords that need to be pulled from a past life, known or unknown. Mm. And so people have that kind of intuitive awareness of any cords, and they maybe even physically start pulling them out. She wasn't physically pulling them out, but I was giving her some privacy, some silence. I was keeping an eye on her ecology, making sure she was okay, but I was just, giving her some space, encouraging her now and then, but it was taking a bit of time. And what had happened, as she related in her email about 4 days later, is that there was a huge, gigantic cord on her hip. And she tried to pull it out, and she couldn't pull it out. And so she asked her spirit guide to come over and pull it out. Asked if they'd come help. Spirit guide couldn't pull it out. So then they had all the healing beings in that healing space come over, do one of those tug of war things. Pull, pull, pull. Finally, they all pulled it out, and her hip pain totally disappeared. 4 days of total relief from hip pain after 20 years of constant pain. Now, that's more of a rare thing. I'm sure you've experienced that too. It happens, but it's maybe more of a rarity. But there can even be extraordinary physical healing from this.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, actually, was what's the most, I guess, profound healing you've seen doing this work? And I mean, 20 years of hip pain gone with one session. That's
that's definitely the one that stands out. And I think what was remarkable about it is I didn't know she was doing it. She did that entirely on her own. And while I'm not, of course, here to fix anybody or heal anybody because of the techniques of hypnotherapy, you're going to do the healing. And that's why I find this work quite extraordinary. I had no idea, about that. Another one, just to have another story, because, and I like this story because people, they think of a past life regression. And they go, okay, well, I might start when I'm 10 years old, and then I'll be 25, and then I'll be 40, and then I'll be 65, and then I'll be 80, and then I'll pass, and then we'll do that work. Or maybe I'll be 25 and then go to be 9 and then go to be 40, maybe jump around. But I think expectation is that you're going to get this broad view of 40 years of a life and have that experience of these different important events in that life across, many, many, many decades. Well, this one person I was working with, they were struggling with a bunch of anxiety, just really uptight all the time. And they just been to the talk therapist, been to all the life coaching, all the stuff. They'd done all the stuff. And finally at the bottom of the list, let's try some hypnotherapy. And oh, you do past life regression. Maybe that's feeling comfortable. That's feeling somewhat familiar. Maybe I should try that. And this person, what he did in terms of past life regression was 3 days over the course of Normandy in World War II. That was the entirety of his past life regression, was just being a teenager, however, I forget how, like 19, 18 years old, being dropped onto Normandy Beach, watching this. If everybody ever seen that, just extraordinarily horrifying first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan, that Spielberg movie, Tom Hanks movie. That's what the experience was for him, but he survived enough to get through somewhere around 72 hours until he met his end. And that's what he had to release and resolve, was the intensity of just being in that hyper state of anxiety, stress, and pure terror and panic. And that was his experience of the past life regression, was 3 days, 18 years old. And again, it wasn't so much that there's understanding there, which helps. So, okay, I'm not going crazy. This is related to something horrifying, panic-inducing. Move from that scene up into spirit world where you can recharge, reset, renew, heal, and resolve in all the ways you need. And it just makes life a lot lighter. Not only having that understanding of where it comes from, but releasing and letting go. Now, sometimes it gets all resolved in that healing space of this soul world. Maybe there's other issues that need to be resolved. Once back on Earth, it's grounded on Earth, and that's where other healing work can come in. But people have the experience they need to have. And it's not that I guided him back to, okay, well, a lot of anxiety. Ooh, what was anxious? World War II. That was an anxious time for a lot of people. And so why don't you go back to 1945 and, it's not that. It's your connecting with the life that needs to be resolved or healed, or at least understood, and the insights gained from understanding that past life. And so it's sort of like picking the right book out of the library. Or anybody remember those Encyclopedia Britannicas? That was our internet back in the 70s. This 32-volume set of all the information in the world, A to Z. And if you just pick a book off the shelf, you're reading about the fork or the invention of the napkin, and that's not very interesting. But if you want to look at polar bears, you know exactly which book to pull. It's all alphabetized. If you want to look at ants or kangaroos, you know exactly which book to look at. And same with this. Or like showing a television set, at least maybe even, I think it still works today. It's like there's this particular show, have to know which streaming service nowadays to look at, whether it's a TV show, a movie, or something else. But back in the day, it works a little bit better. Back in the 70s and 80s and earlier, you had to know what channel and what time that show was on, and then tune into it. And so same with this. You can do it just for fun. Go back to the past life. That's the funnest for me to discover right now. Well, that would send you to a very fun life. Or go back to the past life, or go back to past life where I had my most spiritual experience, or go back to past life where I met my greatest spiritual teacher. Go back to past, one aspect of this work is, what's fascinating about it is there's a theory that if you're masterful at something, maybe a musical instrument, or dance, or science, or mathematics, or martial arts, that it took multiple lives for you to get that skill level, that mastery. So, example, Yo-Yo Ma, considered one of the greatest cello players alive today, if not ever. It took him multiple lives to get to the skill level of being a master. He started playing violin at the age of 3. He started playing cello at the age of 4. Bruce Lee, Meryl Streep, you know. Um, and I just say that because in my mind, I can't, for the life of me, think of any famous scientist other than, well, now I can't remember him. But anyway, so it took multiple lives. And in the first life, maybe Yo-Yo Ma really stunk at playing the cello. But then, he practiced a bit and just kind of had it as a hobby. And then, he lived another life. And it's not that maybe he started back in the 1200s. Maybe he started playing cello in the 1950s. Just wasn't, just started learning how to play it. And then his next life was in the 1800s. And he got a little bit better at it. And then the next life was in the 1970s. And he got really good at it. And, until he was born, I don't know when he was born, but maybe 1950s or so. Now he's considered one of the greatest cello players ever.
It's an interesting theory for sure, because at least I know for myself, sometimes I'm like, I should know how to do this. Like I'm looking at something going, I know this, I know how to do it. And then I'm looking at the book on how to do it, and I'm like, I don't understand any of it, but I'm looking at the diagrams or the pictures, and I'm like, I know how to do this.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah, it's like it's a way of just like connecting to another part of you,
Yeah.
that already knew how to do it. But it's also an aspect of learning and growing too. Certainly if learning mathematics here on Earth, you just don't learn it in 1 year. You have to start in the first grade. At least here in America, we're starting in the first grade when we're whatever first grade is, whether 5, 6 years old. Starting the first grade, learning 2 + 2 = 4. And then you move to the second grade, and now you're learning subtraction. Then you're learning in the next grade your times tables. And then in the fifth grade, you're learning long division. In the sixth grade, you're learning fractions. And then in high school, you're doing algebra and algebra 2 and calculus and trigonometry until finally you're getting your master's degree in mathematics. You're writing those crazy equations on the chalkboard. You just didn't start by learning the crazy equations on the chalkboard. He had to start very simply with 2 + 2 = 4. And then move over the course of many years to getting your master's degree. Well, if you looked at each grade, each year as a life, well, maybe it took multiple lives to get to that mastery of mathematics or love or compassion. Or let's look at wealth and abundance, to be kind of general and broad. Wealth and abundance. To really understand wealth and abundance, is it just living in a golden palace with a golden toilet? Or to also understand wealth and abundance, would you need to experience being poor?
Yeah.
Are you to experience wealth and abundance? Okay, yes, the apartment in Manhattan overlooking Central Park with the helicopter pad on top and all that. Yeah, that's great. When your yacht out in the, all that stuff. But also, would it be important for that person in understanding wealth and abundance to grow up poor? Pick a country, whatever country it may be, poor, or living of, paycheck to paycheck. Wondering if you're going to miss out on paying mortgage this month because some medical bills. These are all aspects of wealth and abundance. Would it be important into understanding all aspects to really get it, let alone something like love or compassion? In understanding love, would it be important to understand losing love or falling out of love or rekindling? There's so many aspects to these bigger subjects of life, the universe and everything. How you would think, yeah, that if it's going to take, pretty much 20 years to get a master's degree in mathematics, how many lives is it going to take to understand love or compassion or empathy or wealth or abundance and that's where I get a little annoyed at kind of like law of attraction stuff, because there's a certain, seemingly to me, there's a certain attitude in the law of attraction world, whereas, well, if you just put up your vision board and had enough feeling state towards having that thing, it'll arrive. And if you don't, it hasn't arrived, then you're not doing it right. The John Assaraf thing in the Secret, which was, believe it or not, 20 years ago. But John Assaraf and the whole famous, I put the house up on my, this strange, weird house up on my vision board, and now I'm living in it. You know, uh, yeah, that happens. But there's also an aspect to this, whereas if you're supposed to understand wealth and abundance, and this life, it's from that of a paycheck to paycheck, or a poor person living in poverty, living in their car, you're not winning the $1 billion lottery. No matter how hard you try and focus and emotionalize it and put it on your vision board, because that goes against what you're, if you're here to learn mathematics, you're probably not going to be a very good, pastry chef, because that's not what you're here to learn about. No matter how hard you really want to be a pastry chef, if you're here to learn mathematics, that's probably what your life is going to be focused on.
Yeah, and it also has I call it the desire work too. You might think you want something, but you might have some hang up against it as well, like take money. Like,
Mhm.
I'm going to do this ritual to bring in all this money, but I think money is evil and capitalism is bad.
Yeah.
So the universe doesn't know what you want. It's like,
Yeah, and there's certainly that aspect to it. That's what's so complicated about being human, right? Is even there may be an aspect where, yeah, you can have that wealth and you can have what's on your vision board because you're here to experience the law of attraction and abundance and co-creating. And you just have to clean up and do some work and resolve some issues.
uh,
But there's also an aspect of what what you're just talking about. It's like, okay, there's issues around wealth because of the perception of wealthy people that we have. But there's also that aspect of, yeah, but if you're here to experience paycheck to paycheck, or you're here to experience poverty, I mean, one of the most famous people in the world when she was alive, and maybe even still now today, is Mother Teresa.
mm,
I don't think she would have to beg for pennies on the street just to keep her clinic open because the church refused to help, at least at the very beginning. And when she started getting popular, then she was great publicity. But it wasn't that she was here to live in a castle and a mansion and have 3 vacation homes and a yacht. She was here to be Mother Teresa and learn compassion and the most horrifying of situations. You know, and so if she was to win the lottery, it's like, well, how does it make any sense? Mother Teresa winning the lottery. I mean, I'm sure she would have given it to herself, but you know what I mean? It's she was here to move through and maybe support and help. I mean, that's what she was here for. But if she was here for learning and her own learning and growth around compassion, well, that didn't mean having a vacation home in Jackson Hole and being able to fly in her private jet to the Super Bowl every year and all that stuff.
yeah.
That wasn't gonna fly, even no matter how much she really wanted a vacation home in Jackson.
Yeah, and I do believe that we sign up for these rules, we sign up for these experiences. But at the same token, I feel that if we want to, we can change them.
Hmm.
Going back to that contract you mentioned earlier, it's some of us might be having money problems in this lifetime, for example, because we did a contract for a vow of poverty and we haven't released it yet. And so that vow that we made when I don't know, we're a priest somewhere in England in the 1600s, but we never released that vow, and it's just been carrying along with us in multiple lifetimes.
Yeah.
We can change that. And I think we can still change any contract or agreement we put in place of saying, I want to learn this or be this or do that. But most of us don't know how to do that, so
Right.
we don't even think that's even an option for our lives. It's
Yeah.
my life sucks because whatever, color of my skin, the home I live in, the way my parents treated me, what country I'm living in.
Mhm.
But in reality, it's like you said, no, you came here to be this actor in this play. You're playing this role. for whatever reason. Part of it's for you, part of it's for your soul family,
Yeah.
part of it might even be for the greater good. I mean, we have to have a bad guy in order to make the hero emerge. And maybe you're the bad guy this time, or maybe you're the hero, or maybe you're just the friend of the person who needs to do something. It doesn't always have to be this grand life. Sometimes you have to have these small roles to make the play work.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. You might be here, uh, what one of the aspects that Michael Newton talks about in his books is that you have your soul group, your soul family, maybe of 8, 9 people, but you have these other groups too.
Yeah.
And you may need to ask like a guest star to come over. Okay, we're doing this learning and development, and we're doing this play, and we need somebody to play this part. Would you be willing to play this part for us so we can learn and grow? So yeah, yeah, sure, I'll be able to. Yeah, I mean, Star Wars needs Darth Vader. That whole thing doesn't work unless you have Darth Vader. But somebody's got to play Darth Vader and
Yeah.
blow up planets and do the horrible things. And so yeah, and it gets mind twisty because then you get into horrible things like Germany and Cambodia and all the other countries doing stuff, and it becomes a big head scratcher
Yeah.
around that. And I don't say I have all the answers, and certainly we're talking about it in kind of simplistic forms. I know this is way more complicated than just this life. I decided to uh, understand what it is to live paycheck to paycheck or be poor to be wealthy. I know there's a lot more to it
It's very
than that.
complex.
Is it? I mean, we're already at like what, an hour and 15, an hour and 20, and so this conversation is way deep, and there's so many rabbit holes to go down. Uh,
Becomes very philosophical, and
yeah,
honestly, we won't know the answer until we move on for the most part. Because
yeah, yeah. And we're only getting a bit of the pictures that old the story of was it the four blind men touching the elephant, and one has a snake, one has a piece of rope, one has a tree trunk or something, and it's like I think we're just getting tiny little bits here and there of the puzzle, um, and it just you know we're allowed to see what we're allowed to see in this life for our learning and growth, and you may have a connection that is wider than other people's because of the healing work you're here to do with other people. So you've been given the skill and the talent. Again, maybe it took you multiple lives to get to this point of the work that you're doing with people. And so you have a certain skill level, just like, some people may be very talented at being a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon or a physical therapist or whatever. You're here in this life to do this work. And so maybe several lives of training to get to this point, and you have an ability that's a little more skilled and talented. Like I can play the cello. You can play the cello. Here's a chord.
yeah,
Take the bow and do this. Now, does it sound pretty? Maybe not, but you can play the cello. That doesn't mean we're yo-yo ma. And I know a couple chords on the guitar. I'm no Eric Clapton or Jimmy Page or whoever, John Mayer or whatever. So um, I think it's so much more complex than we're even here. I think we're talking about just like the blind man and the elephant. I think you and I are talking snakes and pieces of rope and tree trunks, and I don't think we're allowed, maybe just because of this brain of ours or just because of learning and growth. There's a certain aspect of amnesia that is created when we're born. And little kids are certainly adept at maybe peering behind the veil. Maybe the veil hasn't quite closed on for some kids, maybe all kids, I don't know. Maybe all kids have the ability to do this and they either don't say it, or if they do say it, they're shut down. So I don't want to hear your nonsense, or no, that's not the way it is, or I don't want to hear about your invisible friend or whatever. And so they just kind of shut it off and push it down, or just don't tell anybody about it. In other cultures, seemingly around the world, they're more open to it. And well, of course, you were had a different life, or of course you had a different family and a differently. It's like, yeah, I know. Let's hear about it.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know why. Maybe just because our heads get full of stuff, or maybe supposedly it needs to happen this way for our own learning and growth. That gets shut off, or the veil closes completely, and it's harder to access unless you're doing this kind of work. But
Yeah, I think it was Rudolf Steiner that said, I think up to the age of 7, children are very much connected. And then right around the age of 7, that's when they start going through that life change.
yeah,
Like one of their major life changes, like every 7 years.
yeah,
And then they start closing it off for the most part. And then depending on validation and all that stuff, it might remain open. But for the most part, it's the first 7 years of a child's life.
yeah.
They're
And interestingly, that's in terms of brainwave state. That's right around when the beta brainwave state uh, turns on, 7 to 8 years old, and your brain starts operating faster. So, up until 7, 8 years old, you're operating mainly in the alpha and theta brainwave states when you're awake. Um, babies, uh, 1 years old, are a lot of delta and theta. Babies sleep a lot. That's a lot of growth from day 1 to 1 years old or so. So it's a lot of sleep, a lot of delta, a lot of theta. Um, and then the alpha brainwave state gets turned on. It's a lot of daydreamy, imaginative play the little kids are doing in kindergarten and first grade. And then as you move into 7, 8 years old, you're getting into the fourth, fifth grades, I guess, around there.
roughly.
Uh, the beta brainwave state gets activated, and your brain starts operating faster. And maybe that's what shuts it down or shuts it off, or not shuts it off, but at least veils it until it's you can relax enough to access these uh, abilities that we all have.
I didn't know that, but yeah, that coincides perfectly then. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, One other question I have, and I'm curious on your take on it, because with Dolores Cannon, I did do a QHHT session because I wanted to try what it was like back in the day. And with her, a lot of her stuff, it's past life, but also other planets. Do you have that experience when you're working with people with other planets, or?
Yeah, and Michael Newton talks about this as well. But yeah, there are other realms that people might be able to explore. Generally, when I work with people, oftentimes this is very new to them, and so it gets a little bit out there, you know, and I don't want to dump so much on people. So I suggest reading Michael Newton. My own book, I don't really cover it that much, although I cover looking into the future in my book, The Past Lives Guidebook. But Michael Newton touches upon it. I'm not sure about Brian Weiss. Can't remember now. Too many books out there. But yeah, Dolores Cannon does a lot of that work. And I did have somebody, and what's fascinating to me is when we move up to the spirit world, and I don't tell them every single aspect of spirit world. I mean, that's the Michael Newton books. Go read those. And so I might say the healing space, because I want to front load it, and I want to say, okay, we're going to a healing space and we're going to current life viewing room, so they are prepared and know that that's going to happen. But other than that, it's like, where do you go first? Where do you go next? Where do you sense you need to go now? Is your spirit guide going with you? That kind of thing. And occasionally somebody will go to the spiritual library. I've never talked about the spiritual library. It's just one of those things like I just, have enough time. You learn about it in the Michael Newton books, but a lot of people I work with haven't read those.
Mhm.
So they don't know about the spiritual library. So the kind of the hairs raise up on your neck when you're like, whoa, you went to the spiritual library. And it's just like, wow, that's wild. And of course, it may look different for other people. Again, the brain's trying to translate this information. But there was a book on a table, and she described the cover, like the boss leather or something, the kind of design on it. And she opened it up, and the book was all her lives on different planets.
Oh,
And she just kind of started flipping through it. Now, she didn't. What's fascinating is that people who have had this experience either hesitate to find out more or are blocked from it. And so the handful of people who have had that experience of like, because I might ask, depending on their experience and how they're manifesting the spiritual world and what they're experiencing, I might ask about it. Have you ever had lives on another planet? Yeah, I have. I'm getting the intuition, or I'm getting the message that I have. It's like, can you tap into one? Can you explain? It's like, no. That's some people, and somebody you're not supposed to know. But there's an interesting, I don't know if you call it phenomenon or what, but it's called the Atlantis effect, or not Atlantis syndrome, Atlantis syndrome. And it's this idea that people, they have their past life experience and are like, it's a very watery world. It seems to be kind of made of very intelligent, super intelligent beings with high technology and healing capabilities. And they describe the thing as like, oh, this is Atlantis. And they start explaining this thing. And the more they talk about it, you're like, I don't know about Atlantis. And finally, it's like, is this a different world? Is this a different planet? And they're like, oh my God, yes. Because they don't know how else to explain it other than, well, I've heard of Atlantis. I maybe even read about it. And the only way they know how to describe this experience they're having, because other worlds that hadn't even been mentioned before, this must be Atlantis. And when you start diving in, because they're narrating this experience, this one-on-one experience, they're narrating it, and you start asking the questions, and you kind of move through their experience. And finally, it's like, would you say this is Atlantis, another planet, or something else? And it finally just opens up. Oh my God, this is another planet. I've experienced different beings and different things, and and then it really opens up because they were trying to compartmentalize or box it into this Atlantis thing. And well, Atlantis has to be on planet Earth, and that happened, so many years ago. So when they open up that it's a different planet, or different world, or different realm, or different, multiverse, or parallel universe, or whatever it is, then they get even more information. Really fascinating. But
So you've had people access multiverse and parallel worlds too?
that's the thing where it's hard to.
Truly no.
Well, again, how do you prove one way or another? It's sort of like that Star Wars thing.
I mean, it's been proven
In
by
a galaxy, it's
like physics says there's a multiverse. Shamans have been saying that for thousands of years as well. Like we know it. We know it's out there, but
but there's also theories around the holographic universe, and there's theories around this as a computer simulation. And so it's, to ask somebody, well, are you in a past life on a different planet? Are you in a different realm next door, a parallel universe that is you happening right now, as opposed to 2,000 years ago? I think that's hard to really. It'd be fascinating to kind of start asking, trying to find a way of researching that. But I don't know that would be able to tell one way or another. But it's like that Star Wars thing at the very beginning. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, even though it's this futuristic thing, it happened a long, long, long time ago. And I always loved that phrase because, well, is it really in this universe, or is that in a parallel universe? Is it a totally different galaxy universe or something? Because that was the Star Wars, that whole universe of Star Wars is in the past, as ancient history. That's not in the future. And so, in terms of somebody's experience, even if they're having more of a futuristic looking kind of experience, are they seeing the future, or are they seeing a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away?
yeah.
And in and of itself, okay, well, I don't think that could be a galaxy far, far away. What if it's a parallel universe? It's like, yeah, that would be fascinating, and it's happening right now. As they're living this life, there's a parallel, like I'm Craig Merriweather living this life as a hypnotherapist here in Arizona, Flagstaff, Arizona. Uh, but there's a Craig Merriweather who's, you know, doing this other thing right at the same time in a parallel universe amongst the other, million Craigs doing, million different things, seemingly in different time periods, and as the craziness of it is you could drive yourself batty just trying to sort of like putting up the 3x5 cards and strings to different things, and you're looking for the serial killer or something. It's like, you know, but what if it's a parallel universe? And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense if it's a computer simulation, right? But if it's a holographic universe, we have all the information within us already, and like all of a sudden, it's fun. And it's a great conversation, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like I think I just made myself more confused.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. It boggles my mind sometimes too, where you're just like, I don't know what's going on. But it can be a little much. Yeah, as we start wrapping it up though, I guess how can people work with you? Are you able to do this online or is it
Oh
all
yeah,
in person?
I do majority of my work online now, and that was just out of necessity because of COVID, which you can believe was so many years ago. It's fascinating to me that we're so far removed from that now. But and not just hypnotherapy. I'm sure you had this experience too, or talk therapists, or doctor's appointment, or life coaching, or relationship counseling. We all had to move to Zoom sessions. And what's fascinating about this is the research that's come out, sociological research over the last 5 years or so. It shows that Zoom sessions work as well as in person. In fact, there's some research that shows that Zoom sessions work better than in person because people feel relaxed and comfortable in their homes. They live in a big city, San Diego, Phoenix, Dallas, New York, London, wherever, Paris. They don't have to get across town, on a busy Friday afternoon to get to their appointment on time. They just be in their house. And in and of itself, at least work while you're doing it, maybe if I understand, kind of the work you're doing, Jeremy, it doesn't necessarily, I'm not removing an appendix because they have appendicitis. I'm not removing somebody's tonsils or doing heart surgery on them. This isn't a massage. And so in and of itself, the person I'm working with is having the experience. I'm there to guide and facilitate. So again, long answer to a short question is what's the silver lining, at least for me and a lot of other people who do this kind of work, is that Zoom has allowed us to work with people around the country and around the world. I just worked with somebody in Switzerland a couple weeks ago, and England, and worked with a professional basketball player in Europe. He's in the European League, and right now he's in France. He started off in Iceland, or at least when I met him, started off in Iceland. He's a Belgian guy, but he was working with somebody, a doctor in Puerto Rico that his brother had met while there. And then I was working with her in Puerto Rico because she lives in Phoenix too. And because I met her, or she found me, and she lives in Puerto Rico now, but she worked with this guy who's a professional basketball player, and I said, now I'm working with him.
Yes.
It's like the world is flat kind of thing, that book about how we can all work with people around the world. And so I'm working with this guy, he used to be in Iceland, now he's in France, got traded to France. And his friend, who's a professional basketball player in Lithuania, like, it's bizarre, or Bulgaria or Rome, and it's not a brag or to kind of flex, I don't know, maybe a little bit, but it's to show you the power of this. As long as we get the time zone thing right, yeah, you can be wherever. The person in Puerto Rico went to Tahiti and go, hey, I want to do a session in Tahiti, middle of friggin' Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, I always thought with the hypnosis, though, you always wanted to do that in person because there might be, I don't know, what happens if the internet cuts off? Are they able to come out of it okay?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
That might be
that's
just
I think in
preconception
the
from
five
like
years and
movies and
thousands of sessions that's happened once. And yeah, it's just something certainly to be concerned about, but it's also you 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 tell people, it's like, oh, and by the way, if you stop hearing my voice after 2 minutes, then you'll come out of it, and we'll see if the internet is broken or something. You can put in cues to that, but it's also the thing of again, you can't make anybody do anything you don't want to do, and it's sort of like, oh, little Jimmy slipped off into a daydream state during math class, and now we can't get him out of it, and it's been 3 weeks. It's like, no, that's not the way it works. State of hypnosis is just moving down that alpha brainwave state, maybe a theta brainwave state. If somebody's super exhausted and tired and they're relaxing the body, they might fall asleep. But it's not like they stay in sleep for, Rip Van Winkle kind of age group. It's not like they slipped into a coma for 20 years. It's just like, I moved down to this relaxed state. It's like, oh, I got to go. The internet must have cut out. In a funny way, but a great way to show how this isn't an issue is Richard Nongard, one of the people I've trained with over the years. It's very kind of does master trainings nowadays and goes to a lot of the conferences and things. He has a YouTube channel. He has hypnotherapy stuff on there, whether trainings or just relaxation, self-hypnosis kind of videos to watch. And one of his most popular ones, it's like 1 million views over the last 10 years. 1 million views. At the end of it, he does this thing where it's like, I'm going to count from 1 up to 5. And on 5, you'll be fully aware and alert. Off to enjoy your day on this peaceful, having a soul's peace and calm and confidence within you. 1, feeling better and brighter. 2, 3, coming out of it. 4, and I just want to tell everybody how wonderful it was working with you. And I hope you enjoyed this recording. And of course, listen to it again whenever you'd like, and feeling that state of peace and calm. And please enjoy your day. Well, he never says 5. And it's not like there's 1 million people stuck in hypnosis. We would have heard of that on the news. And that damn Richard Nongard putting everybody into a coma state and not being able to get them out. And I think a lot of people get this from like that movie Office Space.
Yeah.
The whole premise of that movie is that he gets stuck in hypnosis, and that's why he has all that strength and courage and confidence to just kind of give the middle finger to the office, But again, it's like it's a weird thing, and I don't know if people, again, I don't want to be a big spoiler. I don't think this spoils anything for that movie, but basically they're doing this hypnosis thing at a dinner or something. And he said, "Oh, I'll show you how hypnosis works, and I'll hypnotize you to be more confident, strong, and empowered." And then the hypnotherapist has a heart attack and dies. And so, that's funny. Now he's stuck being confident, strong, and empowered. But it's like, no, that's how hypnotherapy works. It's like you can install the instructions and suggestions and create healing around the blocks and walls from that confidence and strength and power. So you're not stuck in it. You just become the person you've always been, strong, confident, and empowered. It's just there may have been some blocks to it. And so in and of itself, it's not that if somebody's in this trance state and also the internet goes down or something, it'll be disappointing because now, we'll have to reconnect or reschedule or something. But it's not they're getting stuck in it. It's just like, oh, the internet went out,
No, and I agree. I mean, I was just always curious about that because I had heard it from other hypnotherapists over the years that, oh, I can only do it in person because what if something happens? But I was wondering just because I'm the same way. When I work with clients, I prefer remote because they're more relaxed, unless they're in a situation where they can't relax at their house.
Sure, yeah.
But that's rare, but it does happen. But
yeah, I mean, unless you live, if you live underneath your apartment's underneath a tap dance studio, or they're, testing jackhammers outside your house or something. And again, the research shows people feel relaxed and comfortable in their homes. Yeah. And in fact, there's some research that shows Zoom sessions work better because of that. They feel safe in their homes. And again, you're done with the session, you're at home. Yep. You don't have to get in your car and fight traffic and get home and da-da-da. You're already there. And again, yeah, there's issue. But again, I think of the thousands of sessions I've done, the 2,000 sessions I've done over the last years. Maybe once I had an internet problem, and then we just got right back on the internet. I was like, okay, you all right? Okay, well, good. Well, we'll go a little bit later. Is that all right? Okay, yeah, all right. Close your eyes and just move deeper back into relaxed state. It's sort of like you're in school, like you're in high school math class, and you're taking notes and you're bored, and all of a sudden you're just kind of like falling asleep, getting into that theta, or you're like staring out the window and think about the weekend, how much fun, and then the fire alarm goes off.
Hmm.
Okay, it's a fire drill. Everybody up. Let's walk single file and nobody panic. And you walk out, you stand outside for 5 minutes. Okay, fire alert. You go back in, you sit back down in class, and you're like, this thing again. It's the same difference. This isn't something you can get stuck in. Again, even like a past life regression, it's not like you're time traveling.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going back there. It's a memory. You're accessing a memory. Just like if I was to ask somebody, hey, tell me about that meeting at work last month where you're talking about the fourth quarter results, or how the accounting got kind of messed up because the TCP3 report didn't get filed. You're accessing memory. Tell me about lunch last week at that new place. Tell me about the new place. What's the kind of food like? What and who are you there with? What was the conversation? You're having a memory. Tell me about high school. Did you play sports? Did you play? Were you in theater? Did you do band? Do you smoke cigarettes out by the gym? Tell me about prom. Who did you go with? Did you have a limo? Where'd you go out to dinner? What did you wear? You're having a memory. It's not like you're going back to high school and getting stuck in high school. Ugh. Or like, tell me about your earliest memory. How old were you? What's going on? It's just a memory. Well, all we're doing is we're going a bit further. We're going past earliest memory, going past being a newborn, past in utero. We're going to a past life as a memory. And it's not like you can get stuck in it, just like you can't get stuck in a high school, memory about high school. And so it's like, somebody swimming in the shallow end of the pool and remembering high school and your earliest memory and that meeting last month and that vacation 2 years ago. Well, all we're going to do is swim over to the deep end of the pool. It's the same pool.
Yeah.
It's just we're going to go over to the deep end because now it's safe and we know how to get people over there in a safe and gentle way. And if there's an intense experience that somebody's having, we know how to deal with that too. Just like, if there's a intense experience on television, we'll turn down the volume and make the picture black and white, and let's just fade this out and fast forward to a few days, a few years later or something. Mm-hmm. We know how to, because again, it's a memory. It's not like you're there experiencing it. So this can all be done in a safe and gentle way. And if something were to happen again, like communication gets cut off because of the Zoom call or something, just pick it up. We're doing a 3-hour session. If we need to take a break in the middle of it, somebody just call timeout and we'll go take a bathroom break. And we'll just drop right back down to it. I'm good at what I do. I'll drop you back down into it. We did it once. Why couldn't we do it again? So even if somebody needs a break, it's like, oh God, we've been doing this an hour and a half, 2 hours. I need a bathroom break. I drank a lot of tea this morning. It's like, all right, let's take a break. Just say timeout or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, like I said, I was curious.
Yeah. Well, it's all good questions.
Yeah.
It's great questions because unfortunately there's a lot of baggage and misconceptions and myths about hypnotherapy and hypnosis because of movies like Office Space or what was that horror movie that came out a couple years ago or whatever it is. It's just like, how are we going to get Jason Bourne to assassinate the prime minister? Well, let's hypnotize him. I mean, that'll save us a lot of time and effort in trying to explain this. That's not how it works. You can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. And there's these videos out on, whatever, TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or whatever. And it's street hypnosis. People walk up to other people and say, and sleep. And then they keel over. And that's set up. I mean, they rehearsed that probably for a few days before, so they can go to a viral video. You can't walk. Well, don't do this. But if somebody were to walk up to a complete stranger on the street and go, sleep, they're going to get punched in the face and that person's then going to turn around and run away.
Right.
It's not the way it works. Otherwise I could walk into hypnotize my way into the UN and hypnotize everybody in the United Nations to create world peace. I could hypnotize, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or somebody to write me $1 billion check. But I don't have $1 billion check from Elon Musk because he doesn't want to write me one.
Yeah.
You know, and so same with this. I get on all the prisons and hypnotize everybody to be an upstanding, law-abiding citizen, and shut down the prison system. But same with like smoking cessation. It's not 100% guaranteed because some people don't want to quit smoking. If you don't want to quit smoking, I can't make you quit smoking because your wife or your husband wants you to quit smoking, and they set up the appointment. It's not how it works. Again, otherwise I'd just be able, okay, well, quit smoking and go rob a bank and let's split the loot. It was, well, I didn't rob the bank. They're the one going to jail. They don't want to rob a bank. So you can't make anybody do anything. And that's what's so extraordinary about this work. You want to come do this work? All right. You're allowed, and you have value, and you're worthy of doing this work and having this experience. Again, there's value to having somebody else maybe point out past lives to you, but there's also the experience. I don't know, we're going over time, and we got to get going and all that. But real quick, one of the first people I ever worked with as a clinical hypnotherapist, this is before I even started, because I took a big break between medical hypnosis and the spiritual side of this, because I just wanted to ground myself and get good at this, then start the spiritual side of this work. So I ended up going back to the Hypnotherapy Academy to get training about a year later. But I was working with somebody after I'd done the training, and it was more in the guise of being clinical hypnotherapist. And it was a second session, and we're working on an issue. And she gets on the call, not the call, but the Zoom call, and she says, I just went to a psychic, and they told me that my issues that I'm dealing with, of kind of money and wealth and abundance and stuff. I went to a psychic, and she told me that I had a past life where I was a nun and I did a vow of poverty, like you were mentioning before. And I said, okay. And that's why I was like, we need to fix this. We need to, do a past life regression. Do you do past life? I need to do a past life regression and fix this nun thing, so I can go on and with my life of wealth and abundance. We need to fix this. And I said, okay. I don't know. I don't like it when somebody tells, oh, your problem is this.
Yeah.
Because even if like they quickly look, because oftentimes the mediums and the psychics, you're doing a half an hour session. So there's some chit chat before of getting to know, what you want to work on and what's going on. And then there's some issues of payment and things at the other end. So this thing is really only about 15 minutes, maybe 20. And so this 20-minute session, this person like, oh, okay, obviously of all your past lives, oh, there, none. That must be it. Because nuns take a vow of poverty, so this must be the case. Like, I don't like these hurried kind of diagnosis and analysis of hundreds of past lives, and this is one, because you know what the problem is. Mm-hmm. There's more clinical hypnotherapy of the hurt and pain and the trauma and the anger and the overwhelm and the worry. You know why you're creating that, because it's being created through brain chemistry, that feeling state of being in the sympathetic fight or flight stress response, armoring yourself with that anger and anxiety, that feeling state in your body. That has to be created by brain chemistry. And that brain chemistry is getting changed by conscious or unconscious thoughts from your mind. Your mind knows why you're doing it. Because I'm guessing it's only happening in certain times. Maybe you're anxious a lot and even angry a lot. But you're not angry all the time. You're not anxious all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to guess. So your mind knows when to turn it on and when to turn it off. You know why you're doing it. Yeah. Now, maybe behind the veil in the unconscious part of mind, in the filing cabinet, but you know why you're doing it. And you also understand the connections to these past lives. Again, maybe not consciously, but there's a certain aspect of you, your higher self, your super conscious level of mind that understands what's going on. And you can find that past life by saying, go back to the past life, like turning the dial on your radio, old school radio in your car, turning the dial to the right radio station, the frequency. Okay, well, instead of turning it to 101.3, you're going to go back to the past life that is affecting the wealth and abundance you're experiencing in this current life. Go back to the past life, this karmic cause of the anxiety you may be feeling. Go back to past lives as most influence in your current life. That's turning the channel. And we did this kind of spontaneous past life regression, last minute past life regression. And so we'll go back to the past life that is the cause of this experience you're having with wealth and abundance. She went back to the past life, had nothing to do with being a nun, and she healed what she needed to heal around that. Problem went away because she knew what the problem was. Yeah, on a more spiritual level, higher self level, she knew what the problem was. And we didn't connect that it was a past life until she went to the psychic, but her psychic told her the wrong life. And there's actually a testimonial on my website, both the clinical hypnotherapy website, Arizona Integrated Hypnotherapy, and also I think somewhere on the Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy website. And Samantha, she says, this one session was more healing than 6 years of cognitive behavioral therapy. And that was a past life regression over Zoom, that she had the experience of. So anyway, again, sorry, really long answer to a really short question. You can find me at sacredmysteryhypnotherapy.com. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, but they'll do mostly sessions around the country and around the world. And if you want, you can just go to Google and search for Flagstaff hypnosis, and you'll find me. It'll say Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, but you can also just find Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy. The book is Past Lives Guidebook, which you can find at Amazon and all that fun stuff. So
nice. Yeah, and I'll put all the links and stuff in the show notes for people. That way they can just click it, make it simple for them. But this was fun, man. I appreciate your time. This is interesting stuff. And I think it's important that people look at this part of themselves. It's healing's mind, body, and spirit, and spirit involves past lives.
Yeah.
Or, not just finding a religion of some sort. It's finding those other aspects of ourselves that we've missed or haven't healed, and it's important for us to do it.
Yeah. And I appreciate the conversation too, because there's a lot of rabbit holes, and I appreciate you letting me going on and on. That cup of coffee before we started really helped me go on many tangents. And but again, it's one of those extraordinary conversations. We could talk for 10 hours and still probably have more questions than answers. And that's what's fascinating about a parallel universe or holographic universe, or is it past lives long? It's fascinating and extraordinary, but when it comes right down to it, it's about the healing you're going to achieve, or the discoveries or insights to have about your current life. And it's fascinating work. And if anybody has questions, as you can tell, I like to talk about this stuff. So shoot me an email, or we'll get on the phone or something, and we'll happy to talk with you about it.
Cool. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if something our guests shared resonated with you, connect out to them. That's what these stories are here for. And if you're looking for deeper healing or support, you can always find me at pnwshamanichealing.com. See you in the next episode.